Welcome, and we start this series with a humble little box on a kitchen table. Actually, it's the very smart pre-cruise package you received from Silversea prior to your voyage. Inside you'll find some rather contemporary credit card style ID tags and this custom printed voyage book, which contains everything you need to know about your voyage and the ship you're sailing on. Contents include the itinerary and excursions in detail, as well as lots of handy info you need to know to make the most of your time on board. Then there's some pre-printed luggage tags and finally some funky wire ties for those ID cards. It's all very smart indeed, as is the box it all comes in. With box in hand, all we needed to do then was get on a plane for a short hop across some water, well, 11 hours across an ocean, then hang around at our hotel for a day or two in Fort Lauderdale, adjusting for the time and climate before boarding. The Silver Spirit is the biggest ship by guest numbers on the Silversea fleet. It wasn't the biggest up until mid last year, then Silversea chopped it in half and added a large section to its midriff, lengthening it by 49 feet and adding several new features and capacity to carry 68 more guests, eclipsing the flagship Silver Muse's capacity by just 12. Now, you might be thinking, there's no way you're going to get me on a ship that's been sliced in half then stuck back together again. And from an irrational perspective, it does sound rather unnerving and a tad treacherous. Just be comforted by the fact that nearly all modern cruise ships these days are constructed in blocks that are welded together, and you'll realise that this is what's happened to Silver Spirit, and is no different to what's probably happened to every other cruise ship you've been on. Feel better? Good. Now, a stretched ship can end up looking out of proportion and quite frankly a bit odd, and I'm looking at you, MSC Sinfonia. But not so the Silver Spirit. If anything, it has enhanced the look of the ship, which prior to stretching looked a little too short for its vertical proportions. The lengthening looks in keeping with the rest of the ship, and increases its similarity to its sister, the Silver Muse. According to Silversea engineers, the lengthening actually increases the stability and efficiency of the ship through the water overall. It's a win-win then. The new section has added 34 new suites and enlarged the public areas to beautiful new proportions, as you can see here. More of these areas later. We need to go and unpack. Our veranda suite is one of the standard suites and most plentiful on board. I say standard, the only thing standard about it is the hairdryer. We've done a full suite tour in our previous video, so please refer to that as I won't be repeating myself here. It's worth a watch though, and I'll put a link in the description. One of the most important features of this suite though is that it comes with a butler. No, not an attendant or a cleaner, but a proper butler. Butlers are there to serve you, to help you and advise you. They are always present in the corridors, appearing and disappearing like busy superheroes fighting the crime of unfulfilled guests' needs. Dressed immaculately like Bruce Wayne at a black tie event, but coming to your aid like Batman. Butlers don't clean the suites either. They have a Robin-like sidekick who does that. Oh yes, it's all very organised indeed. After the champagne was poured, we unpacked. Our butler, Brabath, offered to do that, but it's the British Reserve in us that we insist on handling our own underwear. With underwear safely hidden away, it was time for the muster drill. I didn't film the muster, but I wish I had. But you know, you have to turn everything off, don't you? Have you ever had a standard muster drill, strapped on your life jackets, then been led out in single file with your right hand on the right shoulder of the person in front of you to the lifeboat decks? No, we hadn't either. It's a Silversea thing, is it? I don't know. Huddled together on the outside deck, I stood next to a lady who was on her first ever cruise. Removing my hand from her shoulder, I reassured her that no, this was not usual and she wasn't an extra in a prisoner of war drama. She looked a little bemused, then smiled nervously. I never saw her again. After doing the Silversea muster conga, we retreated up to the Panorama Lounge for a quick beverage before getting ready for our first evening meal on board at the poshest venue on board. How's that for a flying start? La Dame is the most exquisite restaurant on the ship and attracts the largest cover charge of the 2 chargeable venues on board, $60 per head at the time of filming. That's a lot to pay for food on a ship renowned for its all-included cuisine. Would the cost be justified? La Dame is tiny, and it's made even tinier by this huge central wine display case, full of prestigious and expensive bottles to tempt you further. There are no more than a handful of covers in this room, but from the moment we stepped in, we realised what the cover charge was paying for. It was a very special experience. The 6-course French fine dining menu and wine accompanying each course was an absolute delight, all served up by the most watchful waiters with eyes sharper than a trained auctioneer. You only had to twitch for them to come swiftly over. Food at this level becomes theatre, and it was as good to look at as it was to eat. Here's a selection of highlights from our menu choices. Our only minor disappointment was this rather sad little soufflé that failed to rise to the occasion. Probably jet-lagged like us. It was still delicious though. With our first evening meal over with, and boy, how was that for starting with a flourish, the dreaded effects of said jet lag were putting us to sleep faster than a general anaesthetic. With no energy for even a post-dinner martini, we slumped into bed, our first ever evening on Silversea complete, if cut a little short. If you've enjoyed this rather slow-paced introduction to our Voyage vlog series, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe as we delve deeper into what makes Silver Spirit so awesome. And we pick up the pace considerably as we explore Central America, snorkel the second largest barrier reef in the world, and munch our way through more dining options than a whole season of MasterChef.